Hello everyone, I'm Bobtheorc, and we're going to continue talking about the lessons of Miyamoto Musashi. And in this episode, this will be episode number 14, do not hold on to possessions that you no longer need. Let's go light a campfire and have a seat, and let's talk about what he means by this. Now, Musashi was a samurai, he traveled a lot, and he traveled relatively lightly. And certainly certainly back in feudal Japan, it was very difficult to hold on to a lot of possessions. It would tie you down and make you immobile. And in modern life, it's easy. It's become very easy to accumulate a lot of stuff. Our houses are bigger. We can rent storage lockers. We have cars and SUVs to drive us around and let us transport all manner of things. And our lives have become very cluttered. And remember that Musashi was somewhat of a minimalist. You know, the samurai in general were more focused on expanding their abilities, on pursuing their purpose, and they were not as concerned with material possessions to begin with. And modern society's become a lot more materialistic, and I think that there's a certain detriment to that. So how do we deal with it in modern life? I know from my own life, most of my possessions involve tools and equipment that I use for work. I have a lot of computers and servers and all kinds of stuff that I do for my computer business. I have all kinds of equipment that I use for the armor and fortification stuff that I do, the consulting stuff that I do. I've got lots of reference materials and books, and these are all things that I use on a relatively regular basis. So I don't necessarily put those in the same category, but as far as my personal possessions go, I try to limit what I have that I'm not using currently. And certain memorabilia and whatnot, I try to be mobile in my possessions. If I have to move locations, you don't want to have a lot of stuff bogging you down. It's a little bit different now that I own a house, but all of my most treasured possessions could still fit into my SUV if for some reason there was a natural disaster and I had to leave, or if Dad got sick and I had to go back to New York or whatever. Um, taking my laptop and a couple of choice things, and I would be content. And one of the greatest challenges in my life is when various family members died. A lot of their stuff ended up at my house. It was originally in various storage lockers, then it ended up in my warehouse. And sorting through all that's a giant pain. And I suppose I could just throw it all away, but there's some things in there that would be valuable or useful, or that would be very meaningful to the family. So I try to go through them a little bit at a time. But certainly, paring down your possessions releases a certain burden. If you don't need all this stuff, you don't need as big of a place to live. You have more space. You have more options. You're not as financially bound. Do you have that decision? Oh, do I make storage locker payments, or do I get rid of some things? Well, if you're needing storage locker space for just stuff that you're holding on to that you're not using, then maybe you don't need that stuff. So I find that most people hold on to way too much. I have friends that are constantly having to move, and moving them is they tend to move once a year, and moving them is a giant burden because they've got too much stuff to even fit into the apartments that they can afford to have, and so it's just a real clutter to walk in there. On the other hand, I have another friend whose possessions basically just fit into the back of her SUV, and she's got kind of her core possessions. And whenever she moves to a new location, she'll buy whatever furniture she needs or rent whatever furniture she needs. And when it's time to move, she gives them away or turns that back into the to the company, and then she just goes off with those same core possessions in the back of her SUV, and that's a much more, I think that's a much more natural way to live. So the big takeaway on this is that we should focus on our path, focus on pursuing uh, accomplishments rather than pursuing the acquisition of stuff. And ultimately, happiness really is based on our accomplishments, not on the stuff that we hoard, because you can't take it with you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with your friends, like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And don't be assholes to each other. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.